The woman drew blood from her body and spills it on the floor. Then she wipes it off with a rag. To fake a murder, the woman gets a crowbar. She dipped it in blood and hid it in the fireplace. She faked the murder weapon. There's one last step. Charge her husband's credit cards and buy herself a huge insurance policy. The woman and her husband, Nick, had been married long. They were supposed to be happy lovers. But her wife, Amy, discovered that her husband was installing cameras all over the house, spying on Amy's behavior. He was controlling Amy. He bought him clothes, organizes his life, keeps Amy under his thumb. You see, you don't even go to work, starting to spend money like crazy. To teach her husband a lesson, Amy read books. She researched the details of the crime. Then she set up a fake crime scene and disappeared. When Nick returned home, he found his wife missing. The coffee table in the living room had been knocked over. Nick realized that his wife had been kidnapped, but the police suspected that Nick had murdered her because they found blood on the kitchen cabinets. On the kitchen cabinets, at this height, apparently it was spattered. Under the fluorescent blood test, they found a large amount of washed out blood, which led the police to suspect that Nick had murdered his wife. During their investigation, the police discovered that Amy was a well-known author. While asking Nick for clues, the police asked Amy if she had any friends. Nick answered no. This is obviously not unusual. The police also said they found suspicious bloodstains at the house. They asked Nick if he knew anything about his wife's blood. Nick thought about it. He said he didn't know. This answer made the police even more suspicious. They searched Nick's house again. This time, the police found a clue. Even more bizarre clue. A half-burned diary. The diary was written by Amy. Not only did it record Amy and Nick's sweet love for each other, she also wrote about the rift in their relationship after they got married. Amy even wrote that she felt like Nick wanted to kill himself sometimes. This clue confirmed Nick's suspicion, but who would have thought? On the other hand, Amy cut off her long hair, dyed her hair brown, and put on a rustic outfit. She was reborn. The police investigated Nick's financial situation. Before his wife's disappearance, he suddenly raised her insurance amount. The police believed that this was Nick's motive for murder, but in order to prove his innocence, to announce to the public he had nothing to do with his wife's disappearance. But at that moment, a pregnant woman came out of the crowd, who angrily denounced Nick and told the crowd the shocking news.
Amy was 6 weeks pregnant!
The crowd was shocked to hear the news. Everyone in the crowd was horrified, and Nick panicked. He had to run away. Nick didn't know his wife was pregnant. It was only when the police investigated the hospital records that they proved Amy was pregnant. The police questioned Nick as a husband. He didn't know that his wife was pregnant. But Nick insisted, "Don't listen to that woman. We don't even know him." The police threw out some pictures of Amy and the woman. Apparently, they were best friends. That's when Nick realized that all of this had been staged by Amy to get people to sympathize with him. He approached his pregnant neighbor and secretly got her urine and faked his own pregnancy. After she left, Amy rented a room and disguised herself as a woman fleeing domestic violence. It was all part of his plan, but what he didn't realize, Amy's wallet accidentally fell out of her purse. A neighbor saw it and took all the money from Amy. Amy had no choice but to find her ex-boyfriend. The ex-boyfriend had always been in love with Amy. Amy pretended to be pitiful. She told her that she had been abused by her husband. That's why she ran away. The ex-boyfriend immediately took Amy in. He let her live in his private villa. That's how Amy finally settled down. She searched for her disappearance from time to time to see what was going on TV. She saw Nick give an interview to a reporter. This time in front of the camera, Nick admitted his mistake. He asked for Amy's forgiveness, and then he confessed his love for Amy. Amy on the other side of the TV screen was stunned. No woman can resist such words of love. Amy knew Nick had finally become the perfect husband for her. It was time to go back, but to get back to her old life, I had to fake another case. Here's how he did it. First, he messed up his ex-boyfriend's hair. When his ex-boyfriend left the house, ripped out his shirt. After the ex-boyfriend left, he pretended to be in pain in front of the camera, pretending he was victimized by a miscarriage, and then tied the rope around his wrists and faked the scars of being tied up, waiting for the ex-boyfriend to come back. Amy approached him. When he wasn't looking, she slit his neck. The next day, Amy came back, covered in blood. In front of the press, he hugged Nick.
Fucking bitch.
I didn't realize Amy had told the police she disappeared, all because her ex-boyfriend kidnapped her. He kept her in a private villa and abused her, and she killed him, so she escaped. The police soon found out Amy did have the ex-boyfriend's bodily fluids in her system. Surveillance records also showed that Amy was being abused, and that was the end of the case. That was Amy's master plan. He went back to Nick. In front of the public, they became a loving couple, but when they got home, they slept in separate beds. Nick was aware the beautiful wife in front of him was a horrible murderer, but he was afraid to leave Amy. If he did, he'd be accused of abandoning his poor wife. Soon after, in an interview, Nick announced that they had a child. They would continue to live happily ever after.